Welcome to Silent Secrets. Let me start with a truth that most men will resist. But it's the one thing every man needs to understand if he ever wants to be respected, desired, or truly seen as powerful. Women only respect men who stop trying so hard to earn their respect. Read that again. Because the entire dynamic of how women perceive you, desire you, and treat you is built around that single truth. Every time you overextend, every time you send one more message, make one more call, buy one more gift, you think you're proving your worth. But what you're really doing is draining it, slowly, quietly, without even realizing it. You believe you're showing love. She senses you're begging for validation. You think you're being romantic. She feels your neediness. And once that neediness shows, respect begins to fade, drop by drop. It's a hard truth. But if you've ever been ignored, ghosted, or treated as if your effort didn't matter, you've felt it. Because deep down, every man knows. The more he chases, the less respect he gets. Part 1. The Trap of Approval. Most men live their lives inside a quiet trap. The need to be liked, approved, validated, seen. They think respect is earned by giving more kindness, more effort, more time. They think love is proven by availability. And yet, if you observe reality closely, the pattern is reversed. The moment a man stops chasing approval, the moment he begins focusing on his mission, on his inner growth, on his discipline, suddenly, something shifts. People start respecting him more. Women begin noticing his presence. Even his silence begins to speak louder than his words. It's not magic. It's psychology. Human beings, especially in relationships, respect what is scarce, what is controlled, what cannot be easily owned. When you pour too much of yourself out too fast, you devalue it. You teach others, especially women, that your time, attention, and emotions are cheap. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. Part 2. Why effort alone destroys value. Here's where men get it wrong. They believe that effort equals love, that being always available equals loyalty, that doing everything for her equals respect. But respect doesn't grow from over-effort. It grows from balance, because when you constantly seek to please, what you're really saying is, I'm afraid to lose you. I'm afraid I'm not enough on my own. And women feel that fear like a pulse. They may not say it, but they sense when a man's self-worth depends on their reaction. And the moment she feels that dependence, the power dynamic shifts. Now she's no longer responding to your presence. She's reacting to your need, your value. In her eyes quietly dissolves, and soon, she starts testing you, pulling back, losing interest. Not because she's cruel, but because she senses that you've lost yourself in the process of trying to keep her. Part 3. The Paradox of Detachment. So here's the paradox. The very thing most men are told to do, give more, love harder, chase stronger, is exactly what makes them lose respect. And the very thing they fear doing, detaching, pulling back, walking away, is what actually restores it. Detachment is not about being cold. It's not about playing games or pretending not to care. Detachment is emotional independence. It's when your happiness is no longer controlled by someone else's behavior. It's when your sense of worth doesn't rise and fall with her attention. When a man reaches that state, when he can walk away from a text that's left on read, when he can smile and keep living his life even when she's distant, that's when she sees him differently. Because now, he's not reacting. He's grounded. He's not chasing her approval. He's commanding respect, that calm, quiet confidence. That's what women find magnetic. It's the kind of presence that says, I'm here because I choose to be, not because I need to be. And that difference changes everything. Part 4. Why boundaries are everything. Let's talk about boundaries, because this is where most men lose themselves completely. They think love means always saying yes. They think loyalty means tolerating anything. They think peace means avoiding every argument. But every time you bend to her moods, every time you sacrifice your truth to keep her happy, you're teaching her that your boundaries are optional. And when your boundaries are optional, respect disappears. Think about it. Would you respect someone who abandons their own standards just to please you? Would you admire someone who constantly apologizes for being themselves? Of course not. Yet men do it every day, silently, habitually, believing it will earn affection. It never does. A man without boundaries becomes invisible. He blends into the background because nothing about him stands firm. He's always available, always agreeable, always unsure. Women don't respect that. People don't respect that. Respect begins the moment you start saying no. Not out of anger, not out of ego, but out of self-possession. When you can look at a woman you love and calmly say, "This doesn't align with me," you communicate strength, and that strength is magnetic. Part 5. The invisible power shift. Here's what most men miss. In every relationship, there's an unspoken balance of power. Not dominance, not control, but emotional leadership. When you chase, you hand that leadership away. When you constantly adjust to her moods, you communicate that she determines your emotional state. That's not attraction. That's submission. And women, whether consciously or not, lose respect for a man who can't lead himself. But the moment you take that power back, when you stop reacting and start living from your purpose, something changes. Now she starts to adjust. Now she begins to wonder what you're doing, what you're thinking, why you're so grounded. She begins to respect your distance because she senses it's not a tactic, it's truth. Part 6. Detachment in practice. Let's make this real. Imagine 2 men. Man. Texts her all the time. He double texts, checks her stories, likes every post, and drops everything to meet her. At first, she enjoys it. It feels flattering, but soon it becomes predictable. He's always there, always ready, always waiting. His attention becomes background noise. Now man B, he likes her too, but he's grounded. He replies when he can. He keeps his focus on his goals. He doesn't drop his life for her whims. He's kind, but he's not over-available. He's interested, but not obsessed. She begins to notice the difference. His time feels valuable. His presence feels earned. That scarcity, that balance, makes her respect him more. It's not manipulation. It's alignment. When you value your own time, others start valuing it too. Part 7. The emotional discipline of a man. This is where true masculine power lives, in emotional control. When you're reactive, angry when she pulls away, anxious when she's quiet, desperate when she doesn't reply, you're letting her control your emotional temperature. You've handed her the remote to your inner world. But when you master your emotions, when you stay calm regardless of her behavior, you regain control. That doesn't mean you suppress emotion. It means you govern it. You feel everything, but you act from clarity, not from fear. And that emotional discipline is what commands respect. A man who cannot be easily shaken becomes a pillar. He doesn't need to shout, chase, or prove. His energy speaks for him. Part 8. Why respect must begin with. Here's the truth no one tells you. Respect doesn't begin with her. It begins with you. If you don't respect your own time, your own values, your own boundaries, why would anyone else? If you constantly break promises to yourself, you teach the world that your word means nothing. If you treat your goals as optional, you teach people that your life is negotiable. Respect is self-generated. It's built by discipline, by integrity, by commitment to your own standards. When you live that way, you no longer need to demand respect. It arrives naturally, because people, women included, can feel when a man is anchored in himself. Part 9. The wake-up call. Now, let's be real. Most men don't realize this until it's too late. They spend years chasing affection, bending for approval, only to end up resentful, drained, and invisible. They think, but I did everything right. I cared, I gave, I sacrificed. Yes, you did, but you gave from a place of fear, not strength. You sacrificed not to grow love, but to avoid losing it, and that's the difference. The truth is brutal but freeing. Respect isn't a reward for effort. It's a response to strength. It's what happens when you stop needing anything from anyone. Part 10. The shift that changes everything. The shift is internal. It's not about playing games or pretending to care less. It's about caring for yourself more. It's about waking up every morning and asking, what would a man with self-respect do today? Would he chase someone who's ignoring him? Would he bend his schedule to please someone who doesn't value his time? Would he apologize for having standards? No, he would live. He would build. He would grow. He would protect his peace like it's sacred, because it is. And ironically, that's when respect returns. That's when women, friends, even family start seeing you differently, because you're no longer seeking anything from them. You're radiating something within yourself. Part 11. The movement. This message isn't about anger toward women. It's not about playing power games. It's about balance. It's about men remembering who they are. Men who've spent years shrinking themselves for approval and are finally ready to stand tall again. You've given enough. You've chased enough. You've bent enough. Now it's time to lead. Not through control, but through presence. Not through dominance, but through self-possession. Because respect isn't taken. It's earned through who you become. Part 12. The call to reflect. Oh, I'll ask you this. How many times have you felt overlooked because you overgave? How many times have you silenced yourself to keep the peace? How many times have you chased approval that never came? You already know how that story ends, so it's time to write a new one. One where you don't chase attention, you attract it. One where you don't beg for respect, you command it. One where you don't lose yourself for love. You become love itself, through self-respect. Part 13. The final message, men. Listen closely. If you want respect from a woman, you must be willing to walk away from her completely, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means you've remembered your worth. Stop chasing. Stop bending. Stop apologizing for having standards. Focus on your purpose. Protect your boundaries. Rebuild your self-respect brick by brick, and when you do, the respect you've been chasing will find you, quietly, naturally, without effort. Because true attraction doesn't come from need. It comes from power. The power of a man who knows who he is and refuses to shrink for anyone. That is where respect begins. That is where desire lives. That is where you become unstoppable. This is Silent Secrets. If this message spoke to you, leave your story below. Tell me the moment you realized your worth was never lost. It was just forgotten. Because this isn't just a video, it's a wake-up call. A reminder that real respect begins and ends with you.